Heading into the last weekend of April, we've got snow, showers, and thunderstorms. Plus, we continue to see an increase on the precipitation forecast numbers. We'll have that update coming up. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. So let's get right to it here. And we've got a weather impact alert for this year. This will continue through Sunday. Not only are we expecting snow, but the potential for some thunderstorms in the high country as well. So the timing, when? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, impact being snow and possibly some thunder snow, plus all the travel impacts. Needing to be alert with changing hourly conditions right through the weekend forecast. Here's a look at some of the snow levels, and it will be fairly low. The storm system starts off with snow levels roughly about 6,000 to 7,000 feet, so right about past level, if not just slightly below it. But by the time we get into Saturday morning, it's down to about 5,000 feet. Now, it will level off to about 5,500 to 6,000 feet. That being said, with snow levels at that elevation, you know how it goes. It is slow up through the mountain passes just as people try to navigate some of the slick conditions in the high country. For this very reason, we have our weather impact extended forecast going on ABC 10 Plus. Make sure you download it wherever you download for free. Not only do we have these extended forecasts, which really dig into the finer details that we just don't have the time to do on our broadcast news, but we've got weather explainers, weather and climate specials there as well, plus our Emmy Award winning weather special. It's called Water Wasted. So check it out there on ABC 10 Plus. All right, let's get into it. Winter weather advisory posted all the way through Sunday morning. Now, this is going to be above 6,000 feet. You can see the areas shaded in purple. This extends right through the Sierra Spine, through 395 towards Yosemite, Tahoe Basin, the east side of the slope, with 3 to 10 plus inches of new snow coming our way. What a way to end out April. Wind gusts over 35 miles per hour periodically as well. It's all driven in by a low pressure system. Here's the caveat. It all depends on where this low will finally start to press its way inland and how long it stays just off the coast before finally making its way inland. So here's the low right here. And again, we're going to continue to track this heading into our weekend outlook with areas of mainly Sierra snow showers, but valley showers will remain. Big weather changes ahead Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the Sierra. It's the Sierra snow below the passes and the travel delays. So that's why we have the weather impact only for the Sierra. Now, as we move our way into the valley, still looking at changing conditions, much cooler, periods of rain, and even the potential for thunderstorms. Mapping out where we have that best chance of seeing some thunderstorms, it will be for the northern part of the Sacramento Valley, surrounding foothills, and right up and down the Sierra. That's why I was saying that thunder snow is very possible in through our Friday. But as we transition into Saturday, it starts to shift ever so slightly, again, because of the position of the low. As we start to see more of the instability grow right around kind of the east and north end of the sector of that low, we'll see it shift into the San Joaquin Valley, the surrounding foothills, and again, through parts of the Sierra for our Saturday. Our rainy weekends, it may feel like the timing is just off on this. We've been beautiful all week. Highs in the 80s to start us off, and then this cooler weather pattern took shape. But when we compare the numbers, kind of crunching them, last year, we really had a lot of those weekends that were completely rained out. 53% of our weekends from January 1st through April 28th were wet. Compare that to this year, slightly under 30%. So 5 of the 17 weekends have been wet. Of course, this weekend is going to be one of those that we're going to add to that percentage there. I'll look at some of the storm highlights as we make our way through our Sunday. Sierra snow 3 to 8 plus inches of snow. That being generally the most that we're going to see in widespread areas, but we'll see those pockets of 10, even 12 plus inches of snow. Snow level 5,000 to 8,000 feet, wind gusts 25 to 40 miles per hour. And again, valley rain about 1/100th to slightly over 1/4 of an inch. It will all be dependent on a couple of factors. One's going to be the position of that low. Second, Anyone that sees a thunderstorm could see brief heavy rain, and that would bump up those numbers. Valley temperatures also taking quite a dip into the mid 60s, some of us only topping out in the low 60s. So you can see the widespread precipitation amounts. It is going to be slightly higher through the central and northern part of the Sacramento Valley at about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of rain, whereas the central and southern part of the valley generally about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. Once we get into the foothills, we're talking 1/4 of an inch to almost an inch of rain. But again, that snow line will be about 5,000 feet. And above, we should see some snowpack that will grow. 8 to 12 inches possible at Donner and Lassen Park. Echo will be 4 to 6 inches, and then we really see those numbers drive upwards. Carson, Ebbets, and Sonora passes 12 to 18 inches. Be aware, we're still at that point in the year where not all the passes are going to be open, especially with any kind of incoming weather system. Plan accordingly and just check those road conditions. Minor impacts, though, slick roads, travel delays. It's not a ton of snow, but it's enough to likely get those snow plows out and trying to clear the roads periodically. Now, what set the stage was the cold air mass that moved in during the work week. And so we had this already atmosphere that was primed for some of these cooler conditions to deliver snow for the Sierra. Saturday, Sunday, both unseasonably cool days for us here for this last weekend of April. But then we start to head into the other region above normal temperature. So we'll enjoy this last little pulse of cooler air for our April before that warmth settles in. Here's the low pressure system. You can see that counterclockwise circulation. So it does very much appear that it will just slide its way southward along the coast. With it, periods of gusty winds, but overall, this isn't going to be a huge impact for us in regards to the storm system. What's really the impact is the dramatic change that we've seen from sunny and unseasonably warm weather in the beginning of the week back to the cooler conditions, showers, even though they're not going to be widespread throughout the entire weekend. It's just one of those, gotta just stay tuned to the weather forecast and see when we're going to see the hit and miss showers, plus the opportunity of those thunderstorms as well. Here's a look at the timeline as we take a closer perspective here. By about 9 o'clock, we're starting to see some of those showers pop up into our Friday. So that's the onset of the showers. Now, the wraparound moisture continues into our Saturday. You can see it's more widespread throughout the Sierra, certainly, than in the valley, although we will see pockets of the showers on and off throughout the day. It's just that's what's leading us to the lighter rainfall totals. We'll still see snow by Saturday night and into our Sunday as that low kind of starts to roll its way through Northern California. Even into our Sunday morning, still some spotty showers out there, as well as Sierra snow, and thus the higher totals for our precipitation in the high country. All of this winds down on Sunday, so it should be a pretty nice outlook there by the time we get to the end of the weekend into the beginning of the week. We'll start the weekend off with showers and continue to see them until about Sunday morning. Model snowfall numbers. Here's a look at what we're expecting: anywhere from 5 to 12 plus inches of snow. Twin Bridges, Kirkwood, Bear Valley, Dardanelle, as well as parts of Mammoth will see those higher numbers. It's just because of how long the low pressure system will deliver snowpack. Now, in terms of our rainfall, it's going to be much lighter, but still decent. About 1/10 of an inch to over 1/4 of an inch of rain for some valley locations. Anywhere from about 1/2 an inch to almost an inch, again, for much of the foothills. Parts of the foothills, especially the upper foothills, will see a little tinge of the very cold precipitation, but should be in the form of rain. Average precipitation starts to drop off after we get through this month. So you can see we're kind of holding on to the last of our wet season, and then we start to head into the drier season where we really rely on everything that we have stored. The last rainy day that we saw last year was May 4th. So we're pretty close in line to seeing that this weekend. It just depends on what we see in May if we actually have another little weather system pull through. The year before that, it was May 6th. 2022, it was all the way to June 5th. But the year prior to that, that's when we were still dealing with some drought conditions. It was March 18th. And after that, everything dried out. We really didn't see anything in the rain bucket. But 2020, pretty decent late season rain. May 17th was the last day that we had that rainy day. So that really dug in deeper into May. Haven't seen much in April. The only time we saw rain measurable in Sacramento downtown, 5/100ths of an inch the first day of the month, and now we're heading into nearly the end of the month and we're seeing it again. So it's had this dry stretch, very typical for this time of year. It's just that we didn't see the rain that we kind of needed in March to bump up those totals after growing deficits in January. Water year started off great. November, December had some really decent atmospheric rivers come through, and then things started to dry out, so it was much lighter. A line of demarcation is very clear who's been seeing the rain and who hasn't. We've had over 46 inches of rain for Eureka, putting us at over 10 inches above normal, whereas the rest of the state, once you get past the central Sacramento Valley, has been unseasonably dry. Considerable dryness, especially for places like Santa Barbara, growing at almost a 10-inch deficit. Even Los Angeles, almost a 7-inch deficit for rainfall this rainy season. Drought monitor, it really hasn't shifted that much. We are heading into that time frame where this will stay pretty status quo until we get into the next rainy season and water year. Because our reservoirs are looking pretty good, we've been able to store groundwater, things like that. That all goes into the computation for our drought monitor. So for right now, it is dryness through Southern California, but Northern California, where, by the way, our largest reservoirs are held, looking pretty good. And the drought outlook does continue to show persistent drought in the central San Joaquin Valley all the way through Southern California, whereas Northern California really not expecting anything in the way of growth for that drought heading through July. Like I said, probably won't see much movement on that until we get into the next water year. And most of this is due to the previous water years being pretty decent here. This year, we're going to end up with a deficit. Is almost a given at this point. Last year, for all intents and purposes, we were pretty average. We were about an inch behind or so. But the year prior to that was such a big water year for us that we really dug out of some drought conditions, helped to fill those reservoirs. And given that we had 2 to almost 3 years near average, things are looking pretty good. Snowpack was pretty good this year as well. Got a lot of storage. These reservoirs continue to come up. This is the time of year that we actually start to see the reservoirs fill, and we don't see those really drain until the end of the summer, when our water needs are at its greatest, because we just don't see any rainfall in June, July, August, even much of September. So we're really relying on some of those surface water conditions and groundwater as well. So again, reservoirs looking good. They're looking healthy, above normal, and that's keeping us out of really severe drought conditions. 8 to 14-day climate outlook. This is what it looks like. Likely warmer in the forecast, but this is a bit of change here, likely wetter in parts of Southern California. So you can see how things are changing ever so slightly in the forecast as we dig a little bit deeper into the outlook, which I really am encouraged by, that we have some of that growing likely wetter conditions into the first week of May. We honestly don't need much more in the way of precipitation for the northern part of the state. So this is a really good setup here, developing for, again, the first week of May. Let's take a look at some of the numbers as we kick off the weekend. We'll only be about 40 for the high country. Unseasonably cool conditions will persist. 40s to low 50s for much of the foothills. Expect this to be the case for Sunday as well. Temperatures remain fairly steady Saturday and Sunday. We'll be in the upper 50s to right around the lower 60s, and that will be true as well throughout much of the Central Valley, right around 60 to 65 degrees Saturday and Sunday. There's not a whole lot of shifting with our temperatures. We don't see that warm up coming our way until next week. So we'll stay unseasonably cool through the weekend, areas of on and off showers, and then we dry out. We warm up into the end of April, beginning of May. So we'll see the showers pretty much region-wide. If you're doing any traveling this weekend, just be prepared. We've got some active weather in store for us. After that, things dry out. We warm up. The only shift that I am seeing is a little pullback on some of the bigger warmth building. It looks like we're going to peak at about the mid 80s by the middle of the next work week and into the following weekend.